Hey guys, Theron Asbury here with Revital Outdoors, bringing you another exciting podcast. We're going back to the great state of South Carolina tonight. We're going to be talking to Mr. Todd Grade. Last year, Todd got a top 5 finish at Lake Keowee at the BFL tournament for the South Carolina division. So very excited to talk to him. He and I have already been chatting before this podcast, and hell, it's almost like we're already friends and we just met one another. So very excited to have another great podcast coming your way from Revital Outdoors. Before we get started, as always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you get notified when all of our content is dropping. Make sure you look us up on Facebook and Instagram. That's going to be Revital Outdoors. And then if you've never heard of Revital Outdoors, we're a premium CBD company for the outdoor enthusiast with a full lineup of great products that are THC free, made right here in America with premium broad spectrum CBD in all of them. So please check us out, revitaloutdoors.com. You can purchase our products offline. And then if you're interested in a pro staff opportunity, check out our pro staff tab, fill out the application there, and we'll be happy to review it and look at getting you on staff. So enough of that. Let's just go ahead and get right into this podcast. Mr. Todd Grade, how you doing this evening, bud?
I'm doing great, Theron. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on board. So, man, let's get right into it. We were just talking about some people love kiwi, some people hate it. I fished it twice in my life. The first time I hated it. The second time didn't work out too bad. So, man, top 5 finish. I think you just said you've gotten a 9 or 10 top 5 finishes at Kiwi. So, why does Kiwi click so well for you?
It's always been a special place, and I think it might be 9 or 10 top 10s. But I love clear water, love spotted bass fishing. I was fortunate to fish quite a bit with one of probably the best spotted bass fishermen, offshore spotted bass fishermen for a long time down at Lake Lanier, Tom Mann Jr. And, he taught me a lot years ago, and I was a pretty good student of the game, being in the back of his boat. When the FLW tour season would come to an end, him and I'd spend, decent amount of time out at Lanier, and I learned a lot about offshore spotted bass fishing, and I kind of was able to take a lot of what I learned down there and apply that to places like Keowee and Hartwell and in those deep water spotted bass lakes.
For sure, for sure. So, I grew up in Oklahoma, went to college in Arkansas, and once I got to Arkansas, I really started, fishing Lake Hamilton, Lake Ouachita, Table Rock, those lakes like that up through Arkansas and Missouri. And I honestly can say I fell in love with spotted bass fishing too. It's very tricky. It's a challenge. It will make or break an angler. I think that's why you see some of the top anglers in the world, why they're so good, because they grew up, especially the guys out west, they grew up chasing those big spotted bass. They're kind of finicky. So, well, tell us a little bit about your tournament last year, and maybe a little bit about what you put together in practice, and what did you find successful? I mean, success is not hard to come by for you on Lake Keowee. So, what just makes it tick for you?
Well, there's some things that go on up there. You see every year during the week of the tournament, I'll see people posting where they've caught a big one here and a big one there, and I had 15 pounds and this and that and the other. But one thing a lot of people don't realize is they pull water every day during the week on Keowee. There's a hot hole on that place, and they move water back and forth between Jocassee Dam and Keowee Dam, and they generate electricity, and there's always moving water during the week, Monday through Friday. So really the fish are a lot easier to catch Monday through Friday. And on tournament day, it's usually pretty tough the first half of the day, because they don't normally start generating current again on Saturday till 12:30, 1 o'clock. And I've got the same milk run that I've had for 10 plus years, and try to be in a certain area, early and kind of make my milk run. And normally, be honest with you, I normally struggle the first 2 or 3 hours of the morning. But I do usually catch 1 or 2 good fish. And a lot of people don't realize, if you get in the right area and you do your homework and you fish some of these places. I like to fish from the bridge that goes that goes up to where we call it the upper lake, from the bridge down to South Cove, where the tournament goes out of. That's where I like to fish primarily. I've got some stuff up the lake that I go up there late morning and fish and come back down, but I'm fishing 2 or 3, 4 foot of water the first hour of the morning, and I can usually get 1 or 2 decent ones doing that. There's a lot of fish that come up shallow, and if you know where to fish on some corners or some little ditches, I like to throw we make this pulse fish lures. It's a little 1/8 ounce pulse jig and a little, it's got a little, this is a shad impact. It's a Kitech, kind of a pintail deal.
Mm-hmm.
Pro blue red pearl's a really good color up there. But, a lot of people, I have more spinning rods on the deck for this tournament than any other one of the year. I normally have 5 or 6 spinning rods on the deck and maybe two bait casters, maybe 3. One of the bait casters will have a jerk bait on it, kind of a Vision 110 kind of deal. And then I'll throw an underspin too. This one, again, it's our bait. It's Matt Aries, actually his signature underspin called a spinning PJ. But you can catch a lot of fish early in the first hour in some shallow ditches on an underspin. So those 3 things, I'm trying to fish as many places in the morning until the sun comes up. When the sun pops up and you start seeing the sun, that shallow deal's over with. So you just got to run and gun, the first hour, cover a bunch of water. And it was funny last year. Normally I got to, you check in between 3:30 and 4:30, 4:45. I had to be in at 4 o'clock last year. And normally from about the time they start pulling water until weigh-in time, I usually catch them on every stop. And it's just, I fish I'll fish 50, 60 places in a tournament day up there. But it seems like the last 2 or 3 hours, it's every stop that you catch one, and you'll be able to help your creel. Well, I had my weight by noon last year, and I was like, daggum, I'm 1 bite away from winning this event, because it normally takes about 15 pounds to win up there. This may be a little different, being a little later on in March this year. There might be some bedding fish, and somebody probably going to catch a really big largemouth. But I ended up with like 13.5 pounds and finished 3rd. But it was weird. I didn't upgrade in the afternoon at all. I run all my stuff. I caught 2 or 3 small fish. They didn't bite last year, and they were pulling water, but they just didn't bite the last half of the day like they normally do. So it was total flip of what I'm normally used to up there. But I made it work. And, I said this with Jody White last year with MLF. He did an article with me before last year's event, and I said, you got to have a big largemouth to have a chance to win. And I had a 4.5 pounder last year. So you got to have at least one really big largemouth and a good mix of spots, or even, if you get lucky and catch 2 big largemouth. But, I normally, a lot of people say they catch them 60, 70, 80 foot deep. And I've went out there and done that. I've got places I can go catch them. But they're that long, they're 1.5 pound, 2 pounders. I'm not fishing any deeper than 35 foot deep there. I got one place that's 40, but that's really, I've fished 35 or less. And I'll throw a swamp crawler, a Zoom swamp crawler is really good. And, green pumpkin, I'll put a little chartreuse on a tail. I'll drop shot a couple things too. This is a Z drop, a Z drop in Morning Dawn. And then I'll nose hook a tiny fluke. This one's an albino one, but really that's my arsenal. I throw a Ned rig in there too. That Zoom beatdown's a really good Ned rig, but a lot of light line. One year, 2-3 years ago, the fishing was so tough up there. I went down to 6 pound test line and an 1/8 ounce tungsten weight.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And this is another little secret up there too. I'm giving you too much good stuff, but they still eat a Texas rig up there really good. And if you put a little bead between your little Texas rig tungsten and your little hook, I use a number 1 offset shank worm hook, a tiny hook in this swamp crawler. You got to go really finesse up there. So they still bite a Texas rig really good up there.
Okay. Really cool. So tell me a little bit more about throwing this pulse shed that you talked about. I think we just mentioned you're the owner of the company. Really mimics a bait that a lot of guys throw out there on Pickwick, Kentucky Lake, a lot larger version. But how does it swim? You said throw it on a spinning rod. What are just the attributes to throwing that bait?
Well, it definitely mimics a shad really well. And again, this is our 1/8 ounce version, but it's got a little cup in the bill. I throw it on 6 or 8 pound line. I still use a spinning reel that has a 5:3 to 1 gear ratio just to throw this on. It keeps it a little bit lower in the water column, but it mimics the small bait that's up there on Keowee. one of my good buddies. I mean, I got a lot of testimonials for this. There's a buddy that fishes, Jody Holland. He fishes up there. He actually called me last year during practice and said, "Hey, you got any of these?" And I brought him 4 or 5, and he did really well. I think he got a top 10 in the tournament too. But there's several guys that, this is a secret little dude up there. And my partner, who's the co-owner in Pulse Fish Lures, he lives right there close to Keowee, and he throws this out there all the time too. So this comes in a lot of different sizes. The 1/8 ounce is the best one up there that I found. There are a few offshore brush piles that you can throw a 1/4 or 3/8 over, but this one. And another thing about this bait too, a lot of people don't realize that you can skip it under boat docks. This thing skips just like a bladed jig. And you get this in the back corners of docks where people can't get their bait, skip this joker out of sight. It's money. Last year, Jeremy and I, my partner in Pulse Fish, my co-owner, we were practicing for a Boating Atlanta tournament, and it was pouring the rain, and we knew we weren't going to fish the same areas in the tournament, but we literally caught like 75 fish on this bait, just skipping it under boat docks that we knew we weren't even going to fish in the tournament. We just went fun fishing and had a blast. So,
were you catching a mix of spotted bass and largemouth? Like both species will react to it?
Yeah, caught several largemouth, but probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 largemouth, but the majority of them were spotted bass, in that 1 3/4, 2 pound range. But this bait's a bite getter. You'll catch them on this, and fishing in places early in the morning when the fish are up shallow. There's a lot of islands at Keowee, and not to give it all away, but I'd say if you kind of chuck that little dude around some islands and in the upper lake, some of them islands and them corners and stuff, you probably get a bite.
Okay. A couple more questions before we let you go. You're talking a lot about shad style baits. Really, really cool how you're talking about a more finesse presentation, even for the guys that are throwing, shad imitators and all. Even that underspin. That underspin and I've had a lot of great success with it. But will the Alabama rig play?
It will. It always does. Even the people that have confidence in it in the clear water, they'll catch them on it. I've caught several on it too. I like to throw it down the side of deeper docks, the docks that have, 35, 40 foot of water on the front of them. And I'll cast it on the back corner and bring it parallel it to the side of the dock. But there's a few other places too. The college national championship one year was won on an A rig, and they went all the way in the back of Crooked Creek. And so whoever gets a good boat draw, there's a few really jam up places. If you get a good boat draw, you can run to the back of Crooked, or you can run up in Cane Creek. There's a little draw up there that an A rig, and fish have seen 100 million A rigs up there, but you get
just
a good boat
a
draw. Just a couple of times. You get a good boat draw, you can get to those places first, and an A rig definitely will play up there. And I've caught a lot of fish when you go up the upper lake. You run up this long straightaway, and it makes a really sharp S curve. And when they start pulling water, them corners, you can actually see the water. It makes a little eddy in some of those corners if you're looking for it. And if you run your side scan and stuff out there, you'll see a lot of boulders. And I've caught quite a few on A rig up there in those areas too.
Okay, fantastic. So, and then last question before we let you go: what do you think a co-angler's got to do to be successful in this tournament?
Well, 2 things: throw a little worm, like a little shaky head or a little Texas rig, and throw this little guy. 2 years ago, I believe, Johnny Hancock's won the co-angler side out of the back of the boat, and he threw this all day. And I think he caught like a 3.5 pounder with like an hour to go that got him the win. But I can't remember what kind of weight he had. I want to say he had like 11 or 12 pounds that day. But he had those 2 things in his hand all day and threw this a ton. And, those 2 baits are, you have that, and maybe even a Ned rig. You don't need to bring but 4 rods with you. If you're in the back of the boat, they all need to be spinning rods. That's all you need, about 4 rods.
Yep.
And that'll be about all you need.
I know a guy from Texas that used to collect a lot of money, and a guy named Brian New back in their co-angler days on the FLW tour. Whenever we went to Lewis Smith Lake or Lake Lanier, one year we went to Table Rock. Anytime we were fishing any lake, Hartwell was one year. Hartwell was the year that I almost stomped a mud hole, and Brian knew, because they both these guys were notorious on these deep, clear water spotted bass lakes as co-anglers. They would get in the boat with 3 rods, and it would drive me crazy because I always had 6 rods. I'm overthinking it. I'm that young guy, not really paying attention. But finally, Keith Honeycutt, and Brian was standing right there when he told me this. He said, dude, on clear water bass fisheries, as a co-angler, you need a 1/4 ounce trap, you need a Kytex swim bait, and a shaky head. And I promise you will have a limit by the end of the day if you just throw those 3 baits. Don't bring anything else. That way, that forces you to rely on those 3 baits.
That's good information to have. And yeah, and Brian's caught a lot of bass out of the back of a lot of people's boats.
Yeah, I've donated a lot of money to that guy. The one time I beat him on the FLW Tour in 5 years is because his boater's boat blew up. Yeah, I got him. So, no, Brian's good people. Well, Todd, really honored to have you on tonight. You talked a lot about baits that your company, Pulse Lures, manufactures. How can we find those baits? How can listeners to this podcast, maybe guys fixing to fish at Lake Keowee, how can they purchase those baits?
Well, they're available at a lot of tackle retailers. We have a pretty large distribution network across the country. You can get them locally up there. You can get them at Lake Hartwell Fish and Marine, which is, 30, 40 minutes from Keowee. You can get them at Dixon Tractor Supply there in Seneca. And there's a new place over there called Revital Outdoors. They have our products as well. Or you can get them online at pulsefishlures.com.
Okay, fantastic. So, well, Todd, I know you got a lot of people that support you, a lot of great family, friends. I checked you out on Facebook. You got a great network of people. Before we let you go, we just want to give you the opportunity to thank all those people that support your fishing career and everybody behind you.
Well, thank you. It's it's the 3 F's. It's faith, family, and fishing. So, I'll be 54 years old this year. I know I don't look that old, but we raised our kids, raised 2 wonderful daughters. They both, my youngest one's in college on a softball scholarship right now, and the oldest one was too. So, got the kids raised, and I kind of fished around the house and run all over the country with travel softball and all that stuff. So kind of taking my shot this year and fishing the NPFL, and I'm fishing the Bass Southern Opens, and kicked off the first NPFL event with a 4th place finish at Cumberland. So that was really nice. But
I saw that. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I've got a really good title sponsor with BB Geomatics. Those guys have kind of revolutionized the surveying industry using LiDAR technology. So it's a lot quicker, faster, and efficient surveying. So, check those guys out if you need any surveying done. They're pretty much a nationwide company. Safe Haven Wildlife Removal. Those guys, any commercial building, any commercial setting you have, they guarantee, 100% bird removal from those settings, or you don't pay. And then I've got a lot of endemic sponsors, like Zoom and Fitzgerald Fishing, Greenfish Tackle, Z Decals, best boat wrap and truck wrap company out there. AFCO, Seagar. I know I'm forgetting people. Hennessy Outdoor Electronics. You kind of put me on the spot, but just a lot of people that have been with me for a long time. Actually, Skeeter Boats, Yamaha Outboards. I've got a lot of long-term partners out there that. When I got the invitation to fish the NPFL, it was back in July. It was actually during the week of ICAST, and I got on the horse that week talking to people and say, "Hey, I'd like to do this next year, and can we do that?" And everybody, to a fault, was like, "Yeah, what do you need? Let's go." And Neil Paul at Green Pond Landing there, and Visit Anderson, he took really good care of me this year too. And one last shout out. There's a website called Fish Intel. It's fish-intel.com. And if you live around a lake and you want to figure out how you can monetize your lake through advertising and social media and selling subscription-based services, and just becoming the go-to person for the lake, check out fish-intel.com. They've done a great job with that. It started with one guy out in Missouri at Lake of the Ozarks. They call him Bass and Bob, and you can look at his website too. He is You probably know Bass and Bob.
I've heard of Bass and Bob. Yep.
He is the guru, all things Lake of the Ozarks, and he is afforded people a way to kind of take that Bass and Bob model and monetize your lake. So that really good folks to check out.
Absolutely. So, well, Todd, thank you so much for coming on board this evening. I know you got a lot of tournaments you're fishing this year, so we just want to wish you a good luck from Revital Outdoors and all the anglers that are fishing all the BFL tournaments across the country, especially those that are fishing the South Carolina division tournaments this year, getting ready to go to Lake Keowee. So, Todd, just thank you for your time. And again, as always, we appreciate you and good luck in the future.
Thank you very much. And I got to give one last shout out to my boy, Alan Gray. He's the best tournament director out there. He creates such a wonderful experience for everybody that fishes, and he knows so many of us by name, and he's known us for years. And it's just
a great guy.
Yeah, it's a great big family in the BFLs, and I'm going to miss hanging out with him this year. But it's a great grassroots level. I mean, I made the All-American and finished second at Hartwell in 2020, and it's a dream come true. That's just a great place to go fishing. Good prizes, good payouts. It's just a great deal to do.
Absolutely. Major League Fishing's definitely got it going on. Revital Outdoors is proud to be a sponsor. I'll give a quick story too before we get off here. I started fishing as a co-angler when I was 16 years old in 2008 in the Okie division. I was still living in Oklahoma. I was a high school freshman, and it was tricky between athletics and fishing, dealing with everything. But, my dad and he was a single parent, and he made it happen. And we didn't really know how to get me started into tournament fishing. We just knew I wanted to do it, and he wanted to make sure it happened. And we got talked into doing the BFLs with Major League Fishing, and at the time it was FLW, and everyone was just complete family. Actually, Alan was the second tournament director I ever had. So my sophomore season, 2009, he was the tournament director in the Okie division, and it was great. They treat people like family. They treat people right. They put together a great tournament organization, and unfortunately, 2 years ago, I lost my dad in the middle of the night, and I didn't have any other family. It just all of a sudden you wake up and the family that you knew growing up was gone. And within the first 48 hours of him being gone, nearly all the tournament directors, everybody that knew me at Major League Fishing had called me and asked me how I was doing, offered up, food, housing, ways to help me get through, the financial struggles of losing my dad. And there's something to be said about that for tournament organizations. They're popping up here and there all over the place. So for any tournament angler out there that wants to get started tournament fishing, any parents out there that are trying to get their kids involved in fishing, make sure you check out the guys at Major League Fishing. They have a great tournament organization. Very much looking forward to being at the Red Crest next week. Revital Outdoors will be there, booth 2214. Please come by and see us. So, just great to talk to another BFL angler. And again, just great organization.
Absolutely.
So, Todd, appreciate your time this evening. Good luck to you this year. And, man, I hope we're talking to you again, because that's usually good news. That means you're having a successful 2022 tournament season.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me, Theron. I appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely. From all of us at Revital Outdoors, again, you've been talking to Mr. Todd Grade, a top 5 angler from last year's BFL South Carolina Division tournament on Lake Keowee. Again, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. That's Revital Outdoors. And then check out our website, as we have a premium CBD product for all outdoor enthusiasts. Again, thank you for tuning into this podcast. Be safe out there. God bless. We'll talk to everyone very, very soon.